Two major defense companies are in a battle for the future of Canada's fighter jet fleet.
That makes the Gripen told CTV News that 10,000 research and manufacturing jobs could land in Canada if Ottawa adds the Swedish fighter jet to its military fleet.
Of course, we're very much interested in the offer by Saab over the Gripen and the creation of jobs in Canada and working together.
For most of the modern era, Canada's role in the global defense system followed a path that felt practical, predictable, and largely unquestioned. Big decisions were framed as technical requirements rather than national choices. Fighter jets were bought from abroad. Software systems were licensed instead of controlled. Critical maintenance and upgrades depended on foreign approval. Over time, this became normal. Strategic independence slowly gave way to efficiency, alliance loyalty, and the assumption that staying close to larger powers was the safest way to remain secure. For years, that arrangement appeared stable, even sensible, until it quietly stopped matching the reality of the world Canada now faces. What is unfolding today is not a sudden break, but a deeper reckoning. While public attention remains focused on Canada's massive financial commitment to the F-35 program, another conversation has been taking shape behind the scenes. It is not about delays, political maneuvering, or renegotiating prices. It is about something more fundamental. Canada is re-examining what sovereignty actually means in an era where military power is defined less by raw hardware and more by who controls the technology inside it. Software ownership, data access, upgrade authority, and decision-making have become just as important as speed or stealth. This shift matters because it signals a change in mindset. Canada is no longer asking only which aircraft is the most advanced on paper. It is asking who holds the keys once that aircraft is in the air, who decides how it evolves, and who controls its future in moments of crisis. That question has been building quietly for years, and now it has reached a point where it can no longer be ignored. What follows is not just a defense procurement story. It is the beginning of a broader reassessment of Canada's place in a rapidly changing global security landscape. What is happening is not a rejection of alliances. Canada remains part of NATO. It remains integrated into NORAD. It remains committed to collective defense. But for the first time in generations, Ottawa is openly questioning whether dependence should continue to be mistaken for partnership. That question alone marks a historic shift. At the center of this reassessment is Sweden's Gripen program, not as a substitute aircraft, but as a catalyst for a much larger change. The Gripen is often discussed in technical terms: speed, range, payload, radar capability. Those comparisons miss the point. This decision is not primarily about which jet flies faster or carries more weapons. It is about who holds the keys to the system once the aircraft is in the air. With most modern fighters, ownership stops at the hardware. The software, mission systems, electronic warfare libraries, and upgrade pathways remain controlled by the manufacturer or the government behind it. That structure creates a form of quiet dependency. Every major change requires approval. Every new integration passes through external gatekeepers. Operational freedom exists, but only within limits defined elsewhere. The Gripen model offers something different: full access to software, authority to integrate weapons from multiple suppliers, control over upgrades without external permission, maintenance performed domestically by Canadian engineers, assembly lines on Canadian soil. These details sound technical, but together they amount to something profound. They return decision-making to the country flying the aircraft. Defense experts often describe sovereignty as territory, borders, airspace. In the modern era, sovereignty also lives inside code. Whoever controls the software controls the mission. Canada has begun to understand that distinction with new clarity. Geography plays a major role in this shift. Canada is not shaped like most NATO countries. It does not operate within dense networks of bases a few hundred kilometers apart. It governs vast distances, sparse infrastructure, and some of the harshest operating environments on Earth. The Arctic is no longer a distant frontier. It is an emerging zone of competition where Russia has expanded military presence and China has signaled long-term economic and strategic interest. The Gripen was designed around similar conditions in Scandinavia. Sweden built its air doctrine on the assumption that fixed bases would be vulnerable and supply chains disrupted. The result was a fighter that can operate from roads, refuel quickly, and return to service with minimal downtime. That philosophy aligns naturally with Canada's northern requirements. Cost also matters, not only acquisition cost, but lifetime cost. Aircraft do not strain budgets at the moment of purchase. They strain budgets over decades of maintenance, upgrades, and operation. Studies from multiple countries show that flight hour costs for advanced stealth fighters are significantly higher than originally projected. High maintenance requirements reduce readiness rates. Aircraft on paper do not equal aircraft available for missions. Canada has watched these developments closely. Other nations have encountered rising costs and operational restrictions that were not fully visible at the time contracts were signed. The lesson is not that one aircraft is flawed. The lesson is that dependency carries long-term consequences that are difficult to reverse. The Gripen partnership reopens a door that has been closed for more than half a century. Assembly facilities, engine manufacturing, software development, systems integration. These are not symbolic offsets. They represent real industrial capacity returning home. Jobs created are not temporary. They anchor long-term expertise. Economic analysts project thousands of high-skilled positions across engineering, manufacturing, cybersecurity, robotics, and advanced materials. Universities and research centers benefit. Supply chains expand beyond defense into civilian technology. Industrial sovereignty strengthens economic resilience. There is also a strategic layer often overlooked. By diversifying defense partnerships, Canada reduces risk. No single supplier holds leverage. No single political shift elsewhere can disrupt readiness at home. This does not weaken alliances. It strengthens them by making Canada a more capable and independent contributor. Some observers worry about reaction from Washington. That concern reflects old assumptions. Alliance strength is not measured by uniformity. It is measured by capability and reliability. A Canada that controls its systems, maintains high readiness, and secures its Arctic territory is a stronger partner, not a weaker one. NATO interoperability is not threatened by diversified procurement. Modern standards allow integration across platforms. Data sharing agreements define cooperation, not aircraft brand names. What matters is political commitment and operational capability. The real significance of this moment lies beyond aircraft entirely. Canada is rediscovering that sovereignty is exercised, not declared. It is built through decisions that prioritize control, flexibility, and long-term capability over short-term convenience. Canada's reassessment does not guarantee success. Industrial capacity must be sustained. Political will must survive election cycles. External pressure will persist, but the direction itself matters. It signals maturity. It signals confidence. It signals that Canada is no longer content to define security purely through alignment, but through capability. The question is no longer whether Canada can afford independence. It is whether it can afford continued dependence in a world where uncertainty is rising and control is increasingly valuable. What began as a fighter procurement review has become something much larger. It is a statement about how Canada sees itself in the decades ahead, not as a peripheral consumer of security, but as an active architect of its own defense and industrial future. This is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of a longer transition whose effects will unfold quietly over years, shaping industries, alliances, and national confidence. The most important changes rarely announce themselves loudly. They reveal their significance only in hindsight, when the old assumptions no longer apply and a new reality has already taken root.